Alright, hello everybody, this is Bronco Harjo. This is my protocol presentation for my network systems class. The protocol I will be going over today is the DNS protocol. So let's get right into it. So what is the DNS protocol? The DNS protocol is the phone book of the internet. We access information online through domain names such as facebook.com or youtube.com. The DNS protocol helps internet users and network devices discover websites using human-readable host names instead of IP addresses. Think of it this way. When you're looking at the DNS protocols and stuff, look at computers. Computers identify each other through numbers, such as IP addresses, and then us humans, we identify each other through names. So the DNS protocol pretty much takes both of them and puts them together, for it makes it easier for us humans to get on our computer and get to the website that we need to, like Facebook or YouTube, by typing in their name, and it identifies them with the server or other computers, whatever, with the IP addresses. So let's start off with the history of the DNS protocol. Alright, the idea of having a human readable host name originated in the 1970s. The Stanford Research Institute, or SRI for short, was responsible for maintaining a single text file called host.txt that mapped host names to computer addresses. They would manually update this themselves, and people would even call them during business hours to have them updated. And that's how our host names first started off. But by the 1980s, it was understood that a centralized, manually updated host file was not the scalable approach. They didn't see that it would age well, see that we need something more efficient, like an automated one. So they put Paul Markopetris, I believe is his name. Might be pronouncing it wrong. Sorry if I did. They assigned him to the task of creating an automated naming system. So Markopetris was supposed to find a compromise between 5 technical solutions, but instead he created his own solution, which was the domain name system. And then in 1984, was when 4 UC Berkeley students wrote the first DNS name server for Unix and named it Bind. So by 1990s Bind was ported to Windows NT, and it is still the world's most widely used DNS software today. So how does the DNS protocol work? How does it work? Well, first, a browser application or device called the DNS client issues a DNS request or DNS address lookup providing a host name such as example.com. For this sake, we'll say we're trying to look for YouTube. So you get in your browser and you say you want to go to YouTube. So you're going to type in youtube.com to go there. So then the DNS client issues a request. So then the request is then received by a DNS resolver, which is responsible for finding the correct IP address for that host name, which is YouTube that we searched. So the DNS resolver looks for a DNS name server that holds the IP address for that host name in the DNS request. The resolver starts from the internet's root DNS server, moving down the hierarchy to top-level domain DNS servers, down to the name server responsible for the specific domain, being example.com, or for this sake, youtube.com. Okay, that means that it works its way down the tree until it finds the host name that is, or the IP address associated with your host name that you are searching. So when the resolver reaches the authoritative DNS name server for example.com or youtube.com, and it receives the IP address and other relevant details and then returns it to the DNS client. And after it returns to the DNS client, the device can connect to the server directly using the correct IP address. So here's an example of a complete DNS lookup. You can see the client that issues the request sends it to the example.com to the resolver, and then the resolver is going to work its way down the hierarchy, starting with the root server. And after each one, it sends it back to resolver. Then after the root server, the DNS resolver is going to go head to the TLD server, and then we're going to head back to the resolver. Then down to example.com, which is what we were looking for. And after it finds what we're looking for, it's going to take it back to the resolver and send it back to the client with the details that it needs and the IP address to connect it to the server. And now the server and the client are connected, and that's where you should see what you are looking for, which would be the example.com that we searched for. So what are the advantages of DNS server or protocol? There's plenty of advantages that I can see that we have here, with the first one being that the DNS is generally the only system in the world that helps us with the browsing of the internet. With the internet becoming such a main part of society, it has become extremely important for DNS servers to remain maintained, because without them, the internet would not exist, or even if it did exist, it would be much harder for us to use it, having to memorize all those IP addresses for us to search the internet for our favorite websites or whatever. We literally would have to have a phone book, I guess you would say, of IP addresses for us to find what we're labeled, to find what we was looking for, because I don't see us being able to remember all the IP addresses that we probably use nowadays by just searching the host names. And which is the next advantage of the DNS protocol, is there's no need for memorizing the IP addresses, because the DNS servers provide a solution by converting domain or subdomain names to IP addresses, making it where you do not have to know an IP address to search for what you're needing to find on the internet, which is very nice. So what's another one? DNS servers have very fast internet connections. And we all know nowadays that the faster the connection, the better. It allows us to get what we need very quickly, because time is money, as you would say. So another good advantage to it is the security enhancements that DNS servers offer. They are an important component for the security of your home or work connections. DNS servers that have been designed for security purposes usually ensure that attempts to hack your server environment are stopped before entry into your machines. So that is very nice, because you definitely do not want your personal information out there for anyone to grab. You don't want your work, your private, or anything like that information out there just for anyone to get. And for them to be able to stop hackers before they even get into your machines is a great benefit that they have. Because nowadays surfing the internet is not always very safe, and hackers have many different ways of stealing your information. So the extra security that DNS servers provide is a plus for you. So that's pretty much all I have for you today. I hope this helped with your understanding of the DNS protocol and why it is such an important thing for us to have today. The Without us having to memorize IP addresses and just having to know the host name that we need to search is such a great benefit altogether. I found the history of the DNS protocol pretty interesting. Also, how Paul was supposed to choose between these five solutions, and he ended up creating his own, and that's how we ended up with the DNS protocol today. So I hope y'all was able to learn something like I was able to learn when I was researching this protocol. And thank you for your time.